All right, guys, here we are. This is going to be an interesting podcast. We got Sergeant Arbildo and we got Sergeant Rosa. Thank you so much for coming in here.
Of course.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Sergeant Arbildo is actually the one who I worked with mainly as we dove into this process and got started getting me enlisted into the Army. So we're going to, some wild stories. I remember when you told me that I was going to be flying from Miami to Chicago, then to Fort Jackson in South Carolina. First thing I said was, absolutely not happening. I'm not flying across the country to come down back to 2 states away from Florida. I said, to be honest, I said, F that, I'm not going. I'm buying my own plane ticket. And that was a wild experience, but I'm glad I did it. And it was just so funny because now we're on the other side of it and everything has been completed. You know what I mean? I'm out. I'm in the reserves and I'm drilling. So little starter story there, but you guys want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about how you got into the military or the Army and those things?
All right, so my name is Staff Sergeant Joshua Rosa. I am from Puerto Rico. I joined from Puerto Rico in the Army Reserves. I've been doing it for 15 years. In the past 3 years, I've been doing AGR, which is Active Reserves, if that makes sense. I was Communications 25 Hotel, which is network specialty. Now I'm a 79 Romeo, which is U.S. Army recruiter.
My name is Staff Sergeant Jack Arbildo. I was born and raised in Peru. I moved to the States when I was 8 years old. I joined the military 2 years after high school as a military police officer. I've been in for 12 years. I decided to stay in the military because I felt like the military was giving me the discipline and guidance I needed. It's stable. It's predictable in most parts. It's a really good experience for everybody. Like everything in the military has a purpose, even though at the time it makes no sense at all.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. I remember going, so I was gone for like 5.5 months. For those of them watching that don't know, I'm a 42 Alpha, which is an HR specialist. So boring office job, I guess you could say. But, dude, going through, like, basic training was such a wild experience. I just remember getting there to, what's it called when? Reception, yeah. So we get to reception. It's, like, the day before Valentine's Day. It's freezing cold, and people are, like, dropping like flies. Like, we're just standing out there 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, and then it takes, like, 2 hours for us to eat. So literally we'd be standing there, go eat, go back and stand, freezing cold, and people are just dropping like flies. They're, like, quitting left and right. One time we're heating up MREs in the bathroom at reception, like, trying to hide from the cold. Drill sergeant comes in, "What is everyone doing in here? Get the heck out." And I just remember we're sitting in there. This guy's like heating his MRE. He's like, "This is definitely not for me. I'm 100% quitting." So he quit like right then and there. He's like, "I'm done. I'm out of here." But yeah, man, when you're going through that, it's just such a wild experience. And I think that's why we're here, is to like share that experience so people have a little bit of an insight what to expect going in. So yeah, you want to dive into like both of your experiences maybe to share some of those thoughts and ideas?
Yeah, so mine was a bit ago. I actually joined in June 3rd, 2009. It's been a minute. So, but my experience was a little bit different, I guess. So with the pass of time, things changed. Like, you know, with everything, the Army changed too. I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Before that, my reception was actually in Fort Sill. So I went to reception first. From there, I went to Flurry School, which is Foreign Language Recruiting Initiative, which is to learn English for those who English is a second language. I was there for just 2 weeks. I took some tests. I was able to pass, and I moved to my basic training, which it was in Missouri.
What happens if you don't pass that test right away? Do you just stay there until you pass it?
You have up to 6 months to pass the test. If you're not able to pass the test, because some people have difficulties actually testing, what they will do is that you can request an interview with the commander, and if the commander deems like you know enough English for you to to move on, then you'll be good to go. If not, then you will be chapter out, and you can try again at a later time. Okay. You can only try twice.
Okay.
Like after the second time, you're disqualified permanently.
Okay. Interesting. So you're saying if somebody doesn't know any English, they can go to Flurry and basically test in and learn the language?
They need to know the basics. Because
Okay.
you have to take a test, which is a proficiency test in English. You have to score more than 50, less than 74 in order for you to be able to qualify for that program.
Okay.
So you have to have the basics for you to be able to join.
That's awesome. Well, that's good for the audience to know is like, hey, if you're trying to get in and you don't know much English, you can still, that's still a possibility. You can
Yes.
still join. You still have the opportunity.
From the Army, we do, and we actually do it at the Air Force Base in Lackland, Texas.
Okay. So they would go to Texas for the school. Oh, well, that's a cool opportunity. So if that's a reason that you don't want to join, like you can certainly overcome that obstacle there.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
I think the biggest thing with that is a lot of people don't know or they're not informed, right? Because there's only a certain amount of things that are showing up online. So unless you know specifically what you're looking for, it's not just going to be out in the open. That's why whenever we make these phone calls or talk to people, about the military, we try to get them all the information they need for them to make the decision. Because that, like you said, that could be one of the disqualifiers or one of the things that people get disencouraged of. They're like, well, I don't know much English. How is it going to work? I'm just going to keep getting yelled at by the drill sergeants and I'm not going to understand. We have programs and everything to help with that. That's why the best way to, get informed is talk to recruiters. We're not, these mean, scary people that are just trying to. Our ultimate goal is to inform the public, and then from there they can make their own organized opinion and be like, okay, this is for me, this is not for me, kind of thing. Ours is just to get information out there.
At the end of the day, we can't force anyone to join. It's a volunteer. We are 100% volunteer force. We are just facilitators. We give you the information. You like the information. You want to move on. We do all the paperwork and all of that to help you get in. At the end of the day, you're the one signing. You're the one doing, all the training and all of that. So, like he's saying, we're just facilitating the information so that you can better understand what decision you need to make or to make a informed decision at that point.
Absolutely. I think that brings up a good point because, like, for my process of joining, I didn't really even think about it or consider it until I talked about other people that had joined. But when I saw y'all in high school coming to recruit at the high school, I just immediately thought, like, oh, I'm getting deployed. I'm going right to war and I'm going to be shooting people up. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea. Like, and it didn't, because I'm the first in my family to do this. So it's not like I had somebody kind of guiding that or sharing those experiences. I literally thought infantry was the only option you had and you were just going to go gung-ho.
That is one of the biggest misconceptions that we have. Most of the things that will call out to people or people's interest is, like, especially like with movies and things like that, or like with video games, is like nobody's going to find 42 Alpha, which is HR specialty, interested. Oh, let me work on some paperwork and this and that. Like, nobody's going to call, oh, let me watch a movie about that. No. So they watch about infantry, they watch about special forces, and other branches like Navy SEAL and things like that. But when it comes to our jobs, that's a very small fraction of what the Army is. We have more than 150 different types of jobs. The small portion is combat. Everything else is either combat support or just support. Like in your case, you're support. In my case, communications, I'm support. Being a military police, combat support. Like, he's been in for a while. He hasn't been able to deploy per se. I've been in the reserves and I deploy because I volunteer. So it's not like, oh no, you're forced as soon as you get back to do this and that. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and I think one thing diving back too is people just don't know what to look for. Like, I remember when I was trying to sign up and just do all this research on myself, like talk to the neighbors. Literally, my neighbor 2 doors down is in the military. He's a big reason as to why I joined, which I don't know if he knows that, but I'm definitely going to tell him. But anyway, so like I'm trying to figure out what questions I should be asking. So talking to Sergeant Arbildo, I'm like trying to navigate this, but I'm also defensive because I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't want to be sold on this. I want it to be my decision. And I don't know, I guess I kind of felt vulnerable because I was just so uneducated, and you can only learn so much from YouTube. Mm-hmm. So I think it is really important to say, like, hey, no, my recruiter, like, you were great. Like, you were on my side. Like, I understand that not all recruiters are that way, considering what's going on with one of the people that you're talking with right now, who I know is a mutual friend. But you were super great, super helpful. You tried to educate me on things that would actually benefit me. So what I would say to the people watching is like, if you are considering, yes, just reach out to a recruiter sooner rather than later. And like, you don't have to make an immediate decision, do you?
No. Showing up to the recruiting station is another misconception. People think I'm going to go to the recruiting office and I'm going to end up enlisting right then and there, or they're going to do everything in their power to get me to ship off or to leave or to, write a contract.
I wish it was that easy.
If it was, trust me, we'd have a lot more people. No, but the first step is getting that information. You can come to the office as many times as you like, get all the information you need. I always make myself available because when I enlisted, right, my process was a little bit different than what I provide to my applicants. My recruiter was there but wasn't there. There was only so much information that he would give me, and I was one of those complicated cases where I had a lot of vision problems. So he kind of pushed me to the side. I had questions and be like, yeah, I'll get to you when I get to you kind of way. So I always told myself I never want to be a recruiter.
Here you are.
I don't want to do what that guy's doing.
One of the best recruiters.
So when I got put into this position, I'm one of those that wherever you put me at, I'm going to do the best that I can to exceed expectations, to excel in that position. So I made it my goal that when I became a recruiter, that I was going to make sure that my applicants were well taken care of. So I always make myself available. I always try to give them all the information they ask for. And I always tell them and encourage it. Hey, don't just take my word. Look this up, Google it here, because the last thing I want you to do is just take my word and then I'm wrong or I'm lying to you. That's where the misconception of, oh, recruiters are liars. Well, some recruiters might be, but some recruiters are trying to help you out genuinely. Mm-hmm. That's why I tell them, hey, fact check me. Check this online, Google it. Look, do your own research on the side. I'm just here to provide you with the knowledge I have. It might not be all there, but you can find it here. So that way you're well informed and you make that own decision yourself.
100%. What would you say one of the biggest things people have a misconception about joining, or what are their biggest struggles? I think this will be a good segue into that type of segment.
So one of the biggest struggles or misconceptions that people have, right? Hey, I can't pass the ASVAB, or I've taken it 3 or 4 times in the past and, there's nothing moving forward for me. I don't know what it is. The Army's opened up a lot of good programs and advantages that you can do in order to get you there, right? One of the programs is called the ASVAB Preparatory Course, where if you score within a certain range, which is now 16 to 31, correct?
30.
16 to 30, you will go to this ASVAB Preparatory Course where for 3 weeks, the Army will prepare you and just drill the studying into you so you can pass the ASVAB with a higher score.
Okay.
So when it comes to that program, the way I explain it to my applicants is when you're here and you're trying to study, you have to take care of rent. You have to take care of like the bills, the family, and this and that. While you go into this program, you're already in. Therefore, you have a salary. So your family is going to be taken care of. Like if you're married or something like that, like you get BAH, which is basic allowance for housing, so that you don't have to be worrying about rent or anything like that. And then your focus will be only study. Versus if you're trying to study over here, you may have to pay for programs. You may have to like spend money in order for you to be able to learn, and you don't know if you're going to learn at the end of the day. With us, with that program, you're already in. You're just focusing on what you need to focus in order for you to better prepare so that you can actually pass the test.
Sure. So and you're 100% focused on passing that exam. Like that's your existence. Mm-hmm. I think it is interesting to mention too, and I didn't know this going in, but like, yeah, they do cover your rent. Mm-hmm. It's based on zip code. They'll give you a certain amount based on rents around that zip code. So you can apply for that, get that. Super nice, right? Takes that off your plate.
As long as you have dependents. If you're single, you don't get that.
I got it.
Are you married?
I am married.
They changed it now.
Oh, you're in the reserves. You're in the reserves. Yes.
So you get it. Okay.
If you're active, it's different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you're active and you're single, you go.
Okay.
If you're in the reserves, since you have to pay for a place to come back to,
sure. Yes. Okay, so if you're in the reserves, then you get BAH.
Yes.
Okay, but regardless of BAH, even while you're there, you're still getting paid
salary.
Mm-hmm. So the whole time you're training, you're getting a check. You're getting a check, which I think a lot of people don't know and didn't understand, like myself, before I was going to join.
Training is paid for, and you get paid while training. A lot of companies don't do that. So And that's another misconception. I get a lot of applicants asking me, hey, like, how am I going to pay for rent? How am I going to pay for this and that? Well, you get a salary. I get a salary where I'm training? Yes.
Yes.
Because we're taking care of you while you're doing all of this.
Yeah.
Another misconception, one of the funny things is when we do these school presentations or just go hang out at high schools, the kids come up to me and they're like, I don't want to join. I want to make money. And I look at them like, I don't do this for free. I promise you.
Yeah.
That's another misconception. While you're in the military, you will be getting paid. You are going to get health care. You are going to get taken care of. This is not a free thing. We are all volunteer force, but money is still a factor in today's economy and society. So they are going to pay you. They are going to take care of you.
100%. I just signed up for the healthcare, and us as reservists, I think we pay $51 a month if we
Yes.
don't have dependents. But then if you have dependents, you pay $250 a month.
Yes.
So, and there's quite a bit of coverages. I looked at the copay sheet; like it covers quite a bit of things. So that's interesting. How is it on the active side?
So the main difference in the active side is that you don't pay anything.
Okay.
As long as you're active, that includes like if you were to getting orders, anything that happens, you'll be covered
Okay.
100%, and you don't have to pay anything.
Okay.
Yes.
So I feel like when I was there, a couple of my drill sergeants, their children had some sort of medical problems or a health problem. And she came out and she flat out told us, like, I joined because of this reason so I could give my kid health care. Like, he needed a bunch of surgeries, a bunch of stuff like this. So I found her story very interesting. Like, yes, some people, if they do get in a pickle, they can join and they can take advantage of that health care. And it's really like a life-changing thing.
It is. So healthcare, dental care too, because that's another thing. If you were to have, messed up teeth and things like that, and you're able to get in, the Army will fix it. They will do everything that they can to get you 100%.
Okay.
So that's something that I saw when I was in my AIT, which is job training. One of my buddies, like his teeth were like all messed up.
Sure.
And he got new dentures, whatever, however it's called, I don't know. English is hard, so. But like one day I didn't see him. The next day he had a perfect smile, perfect than mine. That's why I have these right now. And I was like, wow, he didn't pay anything for it.
That's crazy.
So
Going back to where I mentioned that I had a lot of vision problems during the military, I had to wear glasses all the time. The military paid for LASIK. They took care of it, everything completely. Now I don't need those glasses anymore, completely free.
Wow.
So that's another benefit, if you need it and the Army can offer and facilitate it, it definitely will.
That's super cool. Wow, I think that y'all need to be aware of that because that's a really big advantage that a lot of people overlook or don't understand. So super cool touching on that. Thank you so much. Yeah, y'all want to go through your basic training experiences?
yeah, so as I was mentioning before, once I got to Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood, which for me was a completely different experience. First of all, the first time I left Puerto Rico was for the Army. So
Okay.
I had never taken a plane or anything like that. I am extremely afraid of heights, and here I am in the Army. So that's another thing. A lot of people think, I need to start jumping from planes and things like that. No, you don't have to unless you want to. Yeah, at that point, it's different, which, some people are crazy, but hey, to each their own. So I went to Missouri. Basic training for me was fun. I knew that what I was getting into was not going to be easy, but I joined because my brother joined and he told me I did it. So if I did it, you can do it. And here I am. So it's not easy. I'm not going to tell you. I don't like lying. I will tell you 99% of the truth.
Sure.
Like I said, I don't like lying. But it's not impossible. As long as you have the right mentality, which is what we're looking for. You come in as a civilian. You have certain expectations. You have certain ways of doing things. We will change that to become part of a team, to become one of many. Because if we are as strong as the weakest link, therefore, we have to bring everyone to the same mentality. That's what people will call brainwashing. But at the same time, it's so that you know that you can count on your buddies. It's so that your buddies know that they can count on you.
Sure.
So that's pretty much what a lot of people have issues with when it comes to basic training. But as long as you are in the right place at the right time with the right equipment and uniform, everything else will be told to you what to do.
Sure.
So, and that's what I did.
Sure. What were some of the hardest things that you went through in basic training?
Pretty much being one of the team, because I'm the type of person that like if I messed up, I don't have any issues owning it. Like, I messed up, yes, I'm gonna do it. I have a hard time when someone else messes up, me taking responsibility for it. At the beginning, I had a hard time understanding it, and then I realized, so if I don't take care of my buddies and something happened to them, it's one less person, or like they get injured or whatever, then I cannot count on him. So we're gonna be one short.
Sure.
So it's not about babysitting. It's more as in like, if someone will be either wiser or more intelligent or like will have more responsibilities than others. Therefore, just take care of, you know, your left and right, and you should be good.
Sure.
Everybody does that. Everybody will be good.
Sure.
So once I got into that mentality, I was like, bro, you gotta stop doing that. Oh, but like, no. So if you fail, I fail. So that's the way I saw it.
Sure. Could you give us a couple stories? Maybe some funny ones, some crazy ones.
Again, it's been a minute. So one thing that I did enjoy was the obstacle course.
Okay, I was gonna say, you said you were afraid of heights, so I'm guessing they had you climb to the top of the thing because they want you to get over that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So rappelling was amazing. I was super scared. Like my knees were shaking while I was trying to go down. But
How high of a wall was it?
is that what, 50 feet or something like that?
Something like
100?
Something like that.
It's pretty high. Like when you look down, the people look very small.
They look like ants.
Yeah. So, hey, but the drill sergeant told me, just do what I'm telling you to do and you'll be fine. In no time, I will already reach the floor and I had no idea. Like I just follow instructions and that was it. So yes, I'm still scared. I still do it though. And I've done it after the basic training. So to overcome my fear. Well, for me, obstacle course was just amazing. Like I did it twice because the first time you do it because you have to pass through it. And then the second time they ask for volunteers who like to compete, what platoon can do it faster and all of that. And I was like, you know what, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Even though I was afraid for like climbing the ropes and things like that, I did it twice. And I wanted to do it again. But, you know, at that point, we're like, no, we got to go back we got training to do.
Yeah. I remember, so when I went through, there were a couple gentlemen that were afraid of heights too. And we all knew who they were because they were like standing in the back, like shaking a little bit, panicking. Joe Sergeant goes, if you're afraid, raise your hand. They raised their hand. One guy didn't. We made him raise his hand, go to the front, climb over, and they're just up there, literally just shaking the things, like wobbling back and forth. But after they got down, I think they were pretty relieved and like, you feel accomplished, something like that. So I saw that, and I wasn't necessarily afraid of heights. I climbed the thing. But it was cool to see them kind of overcome that obstacle because everybody has those different obstacles. So yeah, that was fun, and the obstacle course was awesome.
Yes.
I agree.
You?
I was also scared of heights. I was not told to raise my hand, luckily, but I was kind of in the middle towards the back. And when it was my turn, I just kept seeing everyone. I was like, man, this is going to be rough for me. So what the drill sergeant told me, one of the best drill sergeants I had, my senior drill Sergeant Cartwright, Sergeant First Class. He's out now of the military. He told me, it's either you do it or I push you. He said it as a joke, but at that moment, it felt like he's going to push me. So I was like, hey, I might as well just trust my equipment, get it over with. After I got down in the L position, you know, when you're holding the rope, feet are straight out against the tower. And after the first push off, let go, and then squeeze again for the break, I was like, I can do this. This is easy. I got all the way down, and then I missed the break, so I hit the mat.
Oh.
But luckily, I was like not that far off. But going back to that experience, thinking about it, it was like, man, I overcame this. Like you said, it's a sense of accomplishment. You know, it makes you feel like I was afraid of that.
It builds your confidence quite a bit.
Exactly.
Like,
so it makes you realize the Army's going to push you, but they're not going to make it to where you're injuring yourself or stuff like that. They're going to push your limits so you know and you can tell yourself, hey, I overcame this. I'm able to do this. They're going to give you all the tools for success.
Sure.
They will never tell you to do something that they know that you cannot do.
Sure.
Now, again, as a civilian, you have certain restrictions that you're thinking that you cannot do this or can't do that. For example, when I went to basic training the first time, my first 2 mile run, like it was a 1-1-1, which it was 1 mile, 1 minute push-up, 1 minute sit-ups. The first mile, I did it in 12 minutes. That is considered horrible. And to this day, I say it just to prove a point. By the end of my, training, they kept pushing us to run. I went from 1 mile in 12 minutes to 2 miles in 13:36.
Dang. That's crazy.
So, and to this day, I don't like running. But
It's like a 6:45-minute mile.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And I know that I can do it. I thought that I couldn't. Like the best I could do is 12-minute mile. And I went to 13:36. So we will push you so that you can improve, but we will never put you in a position in which you're going to get hurt or, accidents happen, but we're not going to tell you, oh, go do this thinking, oh, he's going to get hurt or he's going to get in trouble, whatever. No, That's not our job.
Sure. 100%. I think that brings up a good point. There was a gentleman that I went to basic training with, super heavy guy. And by the end of just basic training, I'm not even talking the end of AIT. So what, 2.5 months, I think it was, he lost somewhere around 80 pounds. And now I'm sitting there and I'm thinking we're rucking with rucksacks, right? 40-pound rucksack. I was like, this man lost 2 rucksacks of weight. And he was just grinding. He was in there, had the right mentality, like did everything that everybody else did. He was also like 6'5", so just a huge guy all around. And everybody was like, he was so happy. He was so proud of himself. Everybody else was so proud of him. Like it was such a cool thing to see everybody like cheering him on and running with him and all of these things. So if you're looking for like a change in that way and you want to overcome some fears that you have, 100% join.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting to bring up that like when you're in the thick of that, going through basic training and all the doubts you have and all of that, if you just remember how many other people made it through that training and are on the other side, you realize like, okay, I can do this. They did it. This person did it. This person did it. And they had this wrong with that or whatever the case may be. It's like you can totally push through and overcome these obstacles that you've built to make it to the other side.
And that's what I was mentioning, that the reason as to why I joined was because my brother told me, hey, I went in, it wasn't easy, but I did it. So if I did it, I know you can do it.
100%.
So every time that I had like this doubt or whatever, oh no, I don't know if I can do this or whatever, I would think my brother did this. So if he went through it, it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things for me going through too was like not having your phone, right? Like, I don't know, particularly our generation or my generation is super heavy on the phone, being able to talk to your family. So your wife, your girlfriend, your mother, your father, brother, sister, whoever it may be, right? Like that was totally one of the hardest things is losing communication with them. I remember when it wasn't one of you two, but the gentleman who picked me up, I remember like the last hug leaving this house. It was like, that's when it all really hit. It was like, it's going to be like 5.5 months till we hug again. That was a crazy experience. But you get your phone every Sunday, so you're able to communicate a little bit, which is really nice because I ended up starting like counting the Sundays. It wasn't like, hey, I got 2.5 months here in basic and 2.5 months in AIT or whatever. It was like, no, let's just get to Sunday because Sunday I get to talk to my loved ones, and that gives me energy to get through the next week.
Yes.
So I think a lot of people, when I went to, ended up counting Sundays. But yeah, it's tough, like going from seeing them every day and all that to just only on Sundays.
But at the same time, it's only for a short period.
100%.
So, and that's the other thing. Oh, I'm not going to be able to talk to my loved ones forever. No, it's not forever. It's just like with anything. You're just going to be for a certain amount of time. And then after that, it becomes a regular job.
100%.
It also makes you appreciate the time that you have with them because you go from, hey, I'm seeing this person every day, all the time. Like, I need a break. And then you go to basic training, something like that, right? And you're away for 5-6 months and you're like, man, I really miss them. I miss all the little things,
100%. I think I changed quite a bit coming out of basic training, just in an appreciation aspect for the loved ones that I have. I feel like I'm a very like work-centric focused type of guy, like miss some of the little things sometimes, overlook those, whatever it may be. And coming out, I feel like, I don't even know, I'm so much more calm. I'm so much more I guess, appreciative of what my girlfriend does for me and what my mom brings to the table and all of those things. So it's totally eye-opening. Yes, it is for a temporary amount of time. But if you can go through that training, anything becomes easy, I feel like. You're like, oh, I got a 2-month commitment here. Oh, no problem. Bang it out. Like, here we go. I'll crush this. You know what I mean?
It teaches you that you can do it. Because a lot of times, like even me being in the Army, I sometimes have doubts. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can make this commitment or not. And then I think, like you're saying, oh, I did basic training. I did my job training. I did a deployment. Like, yes, I can do this. So
100%.
that's what pushed me to do my bachelor's degree. I have a bachelor's degree in information technology with a minor in cybersecurity. And I saw it impossible because I tried as soon as I got out of high school. I tried college and like it just didn't click. Now in 2017, I was like, you know what? I need to do this. And I know that I can. And I pulled through.
100%. What do you got on that? You have anything on that?
I mean, it also teaches you long distance, right? When I finished basic training in AIT, my wife was still in college here in Florida. I went active duty, so I got stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia. My wife was like, oh, I'll, finish here, and then we'll move in together. Long distance was hard, but it didn't seem impossible after basic training. By the way, she's awesome for sticking out with me while basic training, because at the time, back in 2013, it's different time era. So drill sergeants will sing good old cadences about your significant others.
It's like she's probably cheating on you
Yes.
all this. And they go hard on that and they mess with certain people. Do you see people break up and they're crying and you
Yes.
know they broke up? Like, shout out to all the women for real that like stayed with us. All three of us, like, shout out.
And the man for those,
Yeah.
for the
We're
other.
very inclusive in everything.
Yeah.
Sure,
No,
sure.
so it made long distance not seem that hard. We're like, you know what? I got through it in basic training. They stuck it out with me. They waited for me. Now it's my time to wait for them. So it makes definitely everything easier. It makes everything seem so minimal after going through something like that. Basic training is going to test you, it's going to push you, but then everything else just seems like, man, I did worse,
100%.
And like you're saying, like you don't even realize when that change happened. It just happens, and then you start seeing the little things or paying more attention to certain things.
Yeah.
Which is one of our main trainings is attention to detail.
Sure.
So you start realizing, oh, crap, something that it was nothing, like you barely paid attention to, you see it now, and like, oh, wow,
It matters.
it matters.
100%.
Attention to detail.
I think everybody should experience, like, I wish I had done this sooner. I went in and I was 26 and a half and I came out, turned 27 like the week after I got out or whatever. If I could go back and do this again, I would have talked to y'all when y'all came to recruit in high school, figured it out, probably not joined right away, but just done my research, poked around, right, got it all taken care of. There was actually somebody that graduated high school in my training. Like they had to leave for a day to get their diploma or whatever, and then they came back. So like, you can join when you're 17?
Yes, that's the split option where technically you can join while still in 11th grade. And during the summer, you'll go to basic training, go back, finish your senior year, and then go to job training after that.
That's amazing. My kids are all doing that. They don't have a choice. They literally do not have a choice. Like they're going right in. Because like I said, it teaches you so much. And if you overcome that, like you're just set up so well on the back end. Like even if you don't stay in, like hopefully they do or whatever, but just to experience that's so cool. So I went in 26, got out at 27, but I wish I would have gone in as early as possible just to build that confidence, because it really is a confidence boost. Like you do that, you can do anything.
And talking about what you just mentioned, you have a contract. It's not like you're signing your life.
Sure. I don't think a lot of people understand that.
If you don't like it, once your contract is done, thank you for your service. Go do great things somewhere else. You don't have to stay.
And it's still on your resume. Like
And it's
what?
still in your resume. Yep.
So like how long are contracts typically?
So the minimum is 2 years. The maximum is 6 years. It is all based on jobs.
Sure.
There are certain jobs that the training is not that long. Therefore, the contract will allow you to do a 2-year contract.
Sure.
there are certain jobs that obviously, since they're training you to do certain things, the Army wants their, to recoup their earnings, right? So therefore, it's going to be a little bit longer. With that said, from my perspective, obviously I'm biased. I've been doing it for 15 years. But from my perspective is, for that amount of time, like he was saying, you're set. You will have a paycheck. Everything is, what was it that you were saying? Predictable.
Yep.
For that amount of time, you will have a paycheck every 2 weeks. You will have a roof over your head. You will have food. You will have clothes for that amount of time.
Sure.
If you don't want it after that, thank you for your service.
Sure.
Here is your D214, which is the release from duty. Do great things somewhere else.
100%.
Life has a way of telling you when something's right for you, right? So my plan when I joined was I'm going to do my initial contract, get out of the military, and join the police academy so I can be a police officer. Life, like I said, has ways of telling you this is what you're doing. After I was coming up on the ending of my first contract, which was 5 years, my wife and I decided to have a kid. I was like, well, I really don't want to get out and figure it out with a child on the way. So I re-enlisted.
Sure.
After the second time, I was already in that hump where you're like, I'm halfway there. If I leave now, I would have felt like I wasted 10 years of my life. So I said, it was 10 more. So
why is 20 such an important thing?
You're eligible for retirement.
At 20 years of service.
20 years of service. Anything after that is just extra money that you get stacked up. And for me, being able to retire at 40 years old,
crazy.
It's insane.
Crazy.
I see people like my family members, they're 60 something still working, and they're doing all this because they want to retire. They want to get to that paycheck at the end of the road. In the military, if you join at an early age, you're retiring early. You're still eligible to work and still get your retirement from the military. So that's how I saw it. And that's always in the back of my head. Every time I have a hard day or something goes wrong, I was like, man, I can just get out. But then I'm like, well, I'm going to be 40 years old, not having to worry about another job or this or that. So
100. And if you want to stay in too, you could do like a reservist role to where it's 1 week in a month or whatever the case is. Right?
You can do whichever. Like you can stay active for longer than 20.
Okay.
So doing 20 and retiring is not like a must. Most people do it because, like in my case, I'm looking to do 20 and retire because I don't want to do longer than 20 unless I have to, which I don't see that happening. But you can stay in.
Sure.
You can stay inactive. You can switch to the reserves and just do the reserves.
Okay, this brings up a good point. So I did my first drill 2 months ago. A lot of the people there are quite old, right? It's interesting. A lot of them are doctors. A lot of them just take advantage of the tuition assistance or just the benefits that the military offers, but it also betters their personal life, right? So I have a reserve unit, so 1 weekend a month, but like they're doctors, they're doing all these other things, taking advantage, and it is like super cool to see because you still get that camaraderie. It's like, I don't know, it's just really interesting, and I didn't know what to expect coming out of basic into an actual unit. It's super cool. It's very cool.
It's a different environment. They know that, we know that we're going to meet on the weekends. We have certain things to plan. I still have friends. I'm not talking about like butter buddies or like coworkers. I still have friends from my previous unit. Like we become family. We become like super close, even though we see each other, a certain amount of time. At the same time, you link up with a lot of people. Like you're saying, you talk to doctors, engineers, lawyers. So you make contacts too, and to better yourself. You can get a job with someone else, or just because this person, hey, a buddy of mine is trying to, do this job. He's prepared. He's with me in the Army. They're like, oh, okay, then, bring it in.
Sure. 100%.
And it's different because for me, I had a lot of close, good friends before I went to the military. After completing basic training, coming out and going to my first unit, I met people there that those new friends that I made became family members because they experienced the same thing I experienced. They went through the same thing I went through. And it's not saying anything bad on the friends that I left behind, but it's just something that they wouldn't understand because they weren't there going through what we went through.
Sure.
So That's one of the biggest things that the military sees also. When you PCS, permanent change of station, you move somewhere else, that's what you miss the most, the people that you met there.
Sure.
The Army has a way of bringing you back to those people. So you can go to 5, 6 different duty stations. At some point in your military career, you're going to run back into it. I ran into people 12 years later that I went to basic training with in Fort Leonard Wood. When I PCS to Korea in 2017, I ran into my best friend that's like a brother to me back, in Fort Stewart, Georgia. So it's crazy. The Army will bring you back to those people, and that's one thing that you look forward to the most.
Sure.
The family that you make inside the military.
Sure. That's awesome. I think this is a good segue to dive into, like, we kind of touched on it a little bit before, but people having to deploy versus having not to deploy. Meaning you have the option somewhat, right? To some extent, like, that's a possibility.
When it comes to the reserves, you have more option. When it comes to active duty, I don't know how it works, so I won't be, speculating on that. But when it comes to the reserves, as I mentioned before, I have 2 deployments. For both, I volunteer. I went to Bahrain and Qatar the first time, and I went to UAE the second time. It also depends on your job. Regardless of what you do here is the same thing that you're going to do on deployment. So if you are an HR specialist, that's what you're going to do here, and that's what you're going to do wherever you go.
Sure.
In my case, I like to say that I got paid for what I knew, not for what I did, because my job as a communication specialty is that I will connect to a satellite, and as long as that equipment is up, we're good. Like, I didn't have to do anything else. Yes. So a lot of people take advantage of that, and they would just go to school online and things like that. And, even though they're away from their families, and they're still doing all the things.
Getting paid while doing it.
Exactly.
And quite a bit more overseas, right? Or if
Yes.
you're deployed, you get quite a bit more.
A bit more, depending on the area that you go to.
Okay.
But again, they usually just send what's called detachments, which is just small groups that go to deployments. If you go as a bigger group, which is the battalion, there's always personnel that needs to stay back. So therefore, you always have the opportunity, as long as you can provide a reasonable explanation, for you to stay back, not necessarily go over there.
Sure. That's interesting. I know I did not want to deploy when I enlisted into the Army. And that was one of my big concerns, because I'm getting ready to get married, start a family, kind of like, I'm 27 years old. If I was 18, I think it might be different.
Different, yeah.
But like, I'm looking to get this life going here, and I really enjoy my civilian job. So I just knew going in, I was like, hey, maybe people are going to look down on me for this. Maybe it's not the right move, but whatever. Like, people are super open-minded. They understand that everybody's at a different position. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to want to deploy. So like, that led me to picking the MOS, or the job that I currently have, which is 42 Alpha. I figured, hey, I'm going to be sitting in an office, probably doing a lot of computer work, which probably is going to decrease my chances of being deployed. Now, when I got back, my unit or a company in my battalion deployed to Africa like 2 weeks or a week after I got back. I was like, oh, am I going to have to go? I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, like, whatever. But thankfully it wasn't my section and I didn't have to, but I still feel like I would have had the opportunity to say like, oh yes, I would like to go, raise my hand and volunteer like you did, for example, or maybe not. So there is a lot more flexibility in there that I think people don't quite understand. Does that have a lot to do with MOSs though as well? Like,
Yes,
like 42 Alpha is probably less deployable than like something else, right?
We're support.
Okay.
Therefore, like, if they need us, then we go.
Sure.
If they need us.
Sure.
Now, if you go into like a combat MOS, a combat job, then your chances of deploying
That's
are
where I was going.
way higher.
Yeah,
So
that's where I was
you have to join with the mentality that yes, you will be away from your family more than most members.
Sure.
So, but again, I joined because of my brother.
Sure.
My brother served for 12 years, and then he decided to get out. He didn't have any deployments.
Sure.
By the time that he finished, I was 10 years in, and I had 2 deployments already.
Sure.
So
You said you volunteered for both?
for both.
Yeah. There
That's
it
what I'm
is.
saying,
So the
but-
option. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting, man. It's crazy. Like, I think one of the biggest things when I chose to go in was just picking the right job and understanding who you are and what's going to fit best for your life, because everybody's got a different scenario. So like if I say one thing, and y'all can chime in on this too, please, you see a lot more of it than I do, but like picking your MOS is very important, and understanding what that MOS is and how it affects like your deployability and all of those other moving pieces.
Yes. That's another thing too that we tell people. Do your research on the job. We're able to show you and provide you with what jobs are available to you at the moment after you take the ASVAB and you have your results. You don't necessarily need to make a decision there. You can take it back home, take it to family members, take it to friends, ask people around about that specific MOS that you pick. The great thing about the MOSs and the jobs that the Army offers is we'll train you from zero. You can have knowledge, you could be an expert at something. The Army's going to teach everybody the same way because everybody starts at the same level. The Army wants it done a specific way, which is great because if you're into a job that you do every day, let's say accounting or something like that, right? And you want to change the pace, change the scenery, you're able to pick up a new job and they'll train you, which nowadays, if you want to start a new job, like let's say in, real estate, you have to go and you have to put in the work. You have to go and pay for the certifications and all that stuff. The military will give you all that. So I went in at 18 years old with no knowledge about how to be a police officer. The Army taught me how to do all that, which was great. There are different types of MOSs. Like he was saying, there's combat support, and there's support. It ultimately falls down in those three categories.
Sure. Always
do your research. Always know what you're getting yourself into. Don't go in with that mentality. It's like, I'm going to be infantry, I'm going to be a ranger, and I'm never going to deploy.
Yeah. So, and one thing that I want to touch on, as you're saying, choose your job. The Army is the only branch that allows you to choose a job.
Which is why I'm sitting here. I know that 100% certainty. I went and talked to everyone, and I was like, I'm picking what I want to do because nobody like.
So before you enlist, you're gonna know what job you're gonna pick. So you have that option. So it's not like you go, like he was saying, oh, I'm gonna go in and they're gonna put me to do infantry, and like no, like based on your scores and the job availability, you choose what job you're gonna get.
Yeah. Okay. So this brings up a good point. We touched on ASVAB before. So ASVAB, because I didn't understand it when I first enlisted and like got in, it's a test that basically tells you what you're good at and what you're not good at in the Army's terms.
So it's very similar to the SATs. So
okay.
I never took the SAT, so I don't know exactly. I took the ASVAB 3 times. So it depends on what you're good at. So it's 10 different sections. The first 5 sections is more of what knowledge you have when it comes to English, science, and math. The rest is to see what you're really good at when it comes to electronics, when it comes to clerical, mechanical. Like if you are like super good at mechanical, that's pretty much the jobs that the Army is going to offer you.
Sure.
If you like have no knowledge whatsoever, you can be sure that you're not going to get any.
Sure.
Because you're just not good at it. You see what I'm saying? So that's why it has so many sections to see what you're really good at.
Sure. And don't do what I did. So I got a 86, but on mechanical, I knew I didn't want to be like doing mechanical stuff. I was like purposely marking the wrong questions. Literally, I just really don't want to be like a mechanic or anything. So that's not really how the test works, which I think is important to understand. Get the right answers on everything. Do the best that you can possibly do. And you're going to have a couple options within that. It gives you what? How many options?
It depends. Like, we don't necessarily like to say it like that, but the higher the score, the different options you're going to get.
Okay.
Because it depends on what you're really good at. Usually when people score really high, they have more opportunities, quote unquote, but more opportunities, like I mentioned before, there are 2 things to take into consideration. Having the qualifying scores and the job being available.
Yeah.
So
the job has to be available in your specific area or
exactly.
whatever unit you want to go or whatever the case may be, right? Okay.
So in the reserves, you're a little bit more flexible, which is another thing. When it comes to active, the jobs are there. Like you're going to see what jobs you qualify. Sometimes you have more than 30 jobs that you can qualify for. Other times, like the jobs available are like 7.
Sure. And you said you took your test 3 times. So
once you're in, you can retake the test.
Once you're in, you can retake it, but you can't retake it before you're in?
So if you fail the test before you join, you can retake the test. Like if you fail it the first 3 times, you have to wait 30 days to be able to take it. If you fail it a 4th time, you have to wait 3 months And if you fail it a fifth time, you can still keep taking it, but every 6 months.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So once you're in, you can retake it. So if you want to reclass, right? Because like, let's talk about this. So if you come in and you get a job that you don't necessarily love, you learn about the Army because you're going to learn so much going through and just being in the lifestyle. Like, it's hard to kind of explain it. It's a way different perspective once you go through the training and you're in, and you really learn that different MOSs, what you like, what you don't like, what you think would pique your interest. So if you come in and you're stuck with an MOS or a job you don't like, retake the ASVAB.
You can retake the ASVAB.
And then it's called a reclass, right?
Reclassification.
Reclassification. Everybody's situation is different. Some come in with the goals like, hey, I just want to join the military. I need out of where I'm at, or this is the best choice for me. Unfortunately, they might not be there where they need us, where they get a super great score to pick a great job or what they want. But that's why the Army offers you the availability to take it again once you're in. If your goal is to get out of the situation, to join, and you have the minimum score that we're looking for, and you want to do it, go for it. Because the Army also offers you classes that you can take while you're in order to better your score. It's called fast classes.
Okay.
Where the Army will send you basically to school, and they're just prepping you to take the ASVAB again and pass it with a higher score.
Sure.
So you can always go and reclass. So that's another misconception. People think like, once I do this, I'm locked in for life for the remainder of my contract. I'm cooked.
Yeah, cooked.
So no. So if you go in, let's say, 11 Bravo, right? Because that's all you were offered at the time.
Which is infantry.
Right. You join, you ship off, you get to your first unit. 2 years in, out of a 6-year contract, however long you sign, you're like, you know what? I'm going to start doing fast classes. I'm going to improve my ASVAB score. You do that, you take the ASVAB again, you improve your score. Now you're sitting down with a career counselor and you're talking to them about reclassifying because you have a better score and you see something else that's available to you and that you want to do. The Army will give you that option as well. So you don't necessarily need to finish your 6-year contract or 4-year contract in order to reclassify.
Sure. Interesting. I think this brings up another good point. A lot of people, at least when I was joining, a lot of people were like, oh, you're going to be with some interesting people, right? Like, maybe they don't have a lot going on and they're trying to escape a situation or wherever that might be. There are people like that, but there's also super successful people that are just bored, that don't know what else to do. And maybe they're out of shape and they want to get in shape while getting paid and while building that camaraderie. So like it's insane how many different types of people, different spots in life, like you just don't even know where they're going to come from. So it's really cool to see completely opposite sides of the spectrum. When I was going through, that was the case. Wildly, like everybody was different cases and whatever. So that was really cool to see.
So everybody joins for a different reason. When I first joined, I already had a kid. I was 24. I just needed money.
Sure.
Like I said, I was living in Puerto Rico. The jobs over there were like crappy when it comes to like money per se. It was really hard for you to actually get a decent job that you can easily support a family, which is what I was looking for. So I was like, you know what? Let me give this a try. And here I am 15 years later, like he was saying, oh, I'm just going to do one contract and then after that I get out, and look at me about to be my 20. So yeah. Everybody joins for a different reason. So I joined because I needed money. I stayed because I just really liked it. 100%. I just feel like everything that I have done in the Army, I have earned.
Sure.
And it's just a different mentality. Like when somebody gives you something, you might appreciate it, but like if you earn it, it's just different. So every time I put this on, this uniform on, hey, this is me. Like all of this.
I deserve this.
Exactly. So and I wake up every day like with that mentality. Like I do this because I like it.
That's amazing.
That brings another good point too. A lot of people, they get excited when they see bonuses and stuff on their contract, and they don't take into consideration the jobs. I make recommendations. I will never tell somebody you're doing this or pick this. Mm-hmm. I give them recommendations and I tell them, pick something that you see yourself doing, every day. The money will come one way or another. And if it's the job that you want with the bonus that you want, that's a plus. But definitely do something that you want to do every day. So you wake up with that mentality every day. I earned this. I want to do this. I like my job.
So don't pick a job because there's a bonus involved.
I mean, you can if you want to.
If that's what your goal.
But you're saying long term, probably pick a job that you're gonna like because the money will come.
Right.
Like, okay.
Because if you end up,
I agree 1,000%.
Because if you pick a job, a contract for 4 years, right, as something you don't like, but it came with a nice bonus, 3 years later or 4 years later, you're gonna be like, this isn't for me. I don't like it. I'm getting out. And now that bonus might be gone. You know, you don't have that money anymore for X, Y reasons. You spend it all.
Sure.
But if you sign a contract on something that might not have a bonus, but it has the job that you want, at the end of that contract, you're gonna be like, man, I'm still getting paid and I like what I'm doing.
Sure.
I'm gonna sign and I'm gonna continue this career.
1,000.
Now, like I said, that money is still flowing in. So that bonus doesn't really seem that significant or important at that, you know, at that point.
Sure, 100%.
So in that aspect, that's what, when I joined, that's pretty much what I did without even thinking about that. I just wanted communication. I had the scores, the job was there, and I just like computers. I was like, hey, give me something that has to do with computers or communication. So they gave me this job. That's why I volunteered twice.
Sure.
Because I really like my job.
Sure.
The knowledge that I acquired, and it went outside of the military. I went outside of the Army where I got my bachelor's in IT.
Yeah.
So.
And then cybersecurity. So like
Exactly.
you're all tied into, it's
Into
worked out really
communication.
well for you.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. So now let's say somebody is out of shape and they don't know if they're going to be able to complete all the physical tasks necessary to like get through training or whatever the case may be. Are there any systems or I guess trainings in place to help get them through or get them prepared to go to training or anything like that?
So we have a program that will help people. We have certain standards, right, when it comes to like height and weight for you to be able to come in. Some people are, bigger than others. So we have two different methods in order for you to be able to, to see if you're within our standards. One is just going to the scale, measure you, like if you're within that standard, perfect. If you're not, like if you're heavier than what our standards call for, we'll do what's called a tape measurement. That will measure, we will measure you to make sure that you are within the BMI that we're looking for. We have exception to policies for almost anything. And in that case, we have two different ways for you to be able to still be able to get in, even if you don't qualify, like fully qualify, if you want to call it at that point. We have something that's called ARMS 2.0 or 2.1. If you're 2% over or less from what we're looking for, you will still be able to get in. Your sergeant will just give you more attention than
more push-ups, more squats, the Y squat.
More love than regular recruits. If you have 3 to 6% over what we're looking for, then you will be put into a ARMS 2.1, which is
fat camp.
Referred to as fat
right,
camp.
well, you said it.
It is not. That is not necessarily the name of it, but that's what we usually refer to so people will understand. Your main mission there is, we go back to like your focus. Instead of trying to lose weight here, while you also have to work, you have to do this, you have to do that. Over there, you already have your salary, you're already in. Your focus is to get in shape.
Sure. So it takes away all the other distractions. You're here to get in shape. And then from there, you're going to go to basic training.
You go to basic training, and then you continue with your career.
Sure. Okay. So I think that's important for them to understand. Like if you do have that concern, which a lot of people do, and I think a lot of people want to change their lives on the physical side and really just focus in on that, this is your perfect opportunity. Like go get paid, get in shape, get your discipline mentality, all of those things right, and get pushed through.
We're not looking for super athletes. Everybody, like I said, it's not going to be at that point where they want to be, right? But it is in one of their goals. It might not be. But that's another concern. Well, I'm not physically fit. I can't do X amount of push-ups, X amount of sit-ups. The Army wants you to be willing to push yourself. The rest, they'll give you. I went in there not being able to do more than 20 push-ups when I went to basic training. And now when I take the fitness test, I'm able to do 60 to 65 push-ups in 30 to 40 seconds. And my maximum before.
That's actually crazy. Like that's an insane number of push-ups. I was hovering around like 52.
No, so that's just normal for me now, because the way I see it is, if I have to sit there and push the full 2 minutes, I'm not going to do that. I'd rather get it all knocked out in the first 30 or 40 seconds until I gas myself, and then I'm done.
That's
so
crazy.
That's one of the things that I push myself towards. I remember in basic training, after corrective training, and
getting
sessions,
fucked up.
after corrective training sessions, I'd go back and be like, man, that was terrible. That sucked. But then the following day, I would look myself and I'd be like, I'm actually gaining a little muscle. You know, I'm getting in shape. And like you mentioned, one of the individuals that was there that lost 2 rucksacks worth of weight. That's another thing. You know, it's different trying to lose weight here and focusing on goals when you have life going around you and happening and you need to worry about other stuff. You know, you have to go to work. Now you don't have time to make breakfast, or you don't have time to cook dinner or make lunch. So it's easier to grab something that might not be the healthiest option. Because when you go out and you're in a rush, you're not, oh, let me check the carbs. Let me check the calories on this. It's, hey, I need this because I need to go to work. Basic training will get you there. They're going to give you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And your primary focus is just losing weight. So you can be a little more conscious of like, okay, I should probably eat this because it's healthier for me. I don't have to, you know, get anywhere because I know I'm stuck here. So
100%.
Yeah, and like he was saying, you don't have to be a PT stud, like physical training stud. I went to basic training doing the 12-minute mile. There was a girl that went with me. She couldn't do 1 push-up. She was able to join.
I saw a lot of those too.
Yes, she couldn't do 1 push-up. By the time we finished basic training, she was able to do 35 push-ups in 2 minutes. When like she was like, I just can't do anything. And I started training with her, like the drill sergeants, you know, started giving her a little bit more love. And she went from 0 to 35.
100.
Like,
That's
we'll get you
amazing.
there.
The transformations that I feel like everybody sees in training it's really awesome. And it's like such a cool environment to be in. It's supportive. Yes, the drill sergeants are yelling at you, fucking you up. But like, if you truly look at that, it's such a good thing for you. And as long as you understand that it comes from a good spot and it's going to benefit you long term, why not? You know what I mean?
They're not doing it because they don't like you. They're doing it because that's their job.
100%.
So they go through cycles every 9 weeks, every 10 weeks. So they don't know you. And in nine
they don't
weeks,
really care, honestly.
In
They just
9
don't
weeks,
care.
they're not gonna see you again
Yeah.
until like they're done with their drill instructor tour. If they see you at the unit, you see what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
they're not doing it because they don't like you or like they know who you are. No, like it's just their job. 100%. So just that's why I was saying like the mentality is just do what you're told and you'll be good.
You'll be good.
Again, you're not gonna be told to do something to hurt you or to do something immoral or anything like that. You'll be told to train and push yourself.
Sure.
And that's it.
Sure. Can we dive into quickly the differences between like training now versus training back then? Is that something that you guys can talk about or no?
that's a great topic.
So much has changed, hasn't
So much has changed. One of the biggest things that they used to do back then was called a shark attack.
it? Oh my. Yeah, we didn't have any of those.
If you YouTube shark attack basic training army, you'll see the biggest difference between then and now. It was like the shock factor, kind of. Basically to let you know, like, the drill instructors are in charge. This is their territory. This is their world. You're going to listen. And you're going to do what they're telling you to do.
So for those of you that don't know, a shark attack is where there's a bunch of drill sergeants that come around and focus on one person and just scream and holler and in your face, all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
super intense.
And it starts off as soon as the bus stops in front of your company. You'll see one drill instructor going there. You have 30 seconds to get off this bus, go to the back of the building. You will run for your life. And if you don't, it's going to be fun for a while.
Shark
Keep
attack.
in mind, you have like 4 bags of uniform and everything with you, and you have to run.
Yeah.
There's a perfectly good front door, but you don't get to use it.
All the way around.
All the way to the back of the building. That's
Yeah.
your door. It's like I was mentioning, it's much more for the shock factor to let you know, okay, I need to listen to them
Sure.
because they're in charge here, kind of thing. They don't do that anymore, but they have other ways.
Why don't they do that anymore?
Different times.
Yeah. So
Softer
different
people, right?
generations.
Different generations.
I don't want to say softer people or anything like that. It's just I guess the Army did some research when it comes to things like that, and it showed that it wasn't working the way that it was supposed to be working. Therefore, like if the Army does something and then they find out that it doesn't work, they just take it away.
Sure.
And then try to do something different.
Sure.
Like we try as much as we can to change with the time.
Sure. I think, I don't know what y'all can say, what not, but I think, how do I put it? Like, times were different back then, like you said, than they are now. And people are changing over time with technology and all of these other things, right? Like obesity now is a big thing to where back in the day it wasn't such a big concern. So I think the Army is trying to like adapt with the new lifestyle that these people are living and how they're taken care of at home and all of these things. So I think people are more receptive to not such harsh punishments or I don't know, whatever the case may be. So I think that's a big topic. I know when we were going through, a lot of the drill sergeants were like, oh, back in the day we would do this. You're so lucky the time wasn't back then because we would have fucked you up or like whatever. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see humanity kind of evolve and change. And I think from my understanding, the Army is typically one of the first implementers of certain things. And then a lot of businesses or a lot of other people get their ideas from the military. So
we try.
It's cool.
Not always, but we try. So, but like you were saying, when you went over there, one of the big factors for you was not having a phone. I'm gonna call myself old here, but when I went, I didn't care because like phones were starting to come up.
Sure.
Like, so me not having a phone wasn't a big deal. The shark attack was.
Sure.
Even though, again, I had the mentality they're not doing this because they don't like me. This is just their job. But at the same time, like I was running and I was smiling, and as I'm smiling, one of the signs, "What are you smiling for? Keep running!" And I just like stopped smiling, but in my head, I was like laughing. And then one of my drill sergeants, female drill sergeant, she was trying to be intimidating. I just found it funny.
We had one of these.
I didn't say anything, obviously, because at that point, you know, you're a new recruit, like you don't want to offend or whatever. But afterwards, once you start getting to know the drill sergeants, like they go a little bit, you know, more humane, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And she asked me, and I was like, she was like, "Is there something that I did that you guys like found weird?" So she was a tall lady, not taller than me, but she was tall. So and she was like making some certain gestures. And when I told her, she was like, "What? No, I was trying to be intimidating." I was like, "Yes," and it was so hilarious. And she was like, "Nah, no way." Like we were just two regular people talking to each other.
Yeah.
The same person that the first day that I met, she was yelling at my face.
Yeah.
So it's just their job.
100%.
But like you're saying, times change. For me, that was a big factor. Not having a phone wasn't a big thing.
Sure. Yeah, it's just crazy. Like technology is changing so fast. It's going to be interesting to see which way the Army takes this. You know, it's like what other changes are we going to see? Do you have any insight on that, or?
We usually get to like we get messages and things like that when things are changing, but at the same time, like we don't know until like we get that.
Sure. Okay.
And it's not that far off, as in like by the time that we know it, a couple of weeks later, then most people will know it.
Sure.
So it's not like too much time passes between.
We could talk about the benefits.
Yes, let's talk about the benefits. You want to take us off?
One of the biggest ones is time off, right?
Okay.
Aside from leave, which is like paid time off, you don't, whenever there's holidays, there's training holidays, there's stuff like that, that is not taken away from your vacations that you get. Every month on active duty, you earn 2.5 days of vacation time. We call it leave. In a year, you earn up to 30. And unlike certain jobs, or the majority of the jobs is, if you don't use them, they stack up. So right now I'm sitting on over 60 something days of vacation that I can take.
Jeez.
So
That's like 2 months.
Right. So for me, I was being a military police officer. I never had, 9 to 5, Monday through Fridays, weekends off and stuff like that. So I took vacations whenever I could, but not as often as other people. So it made me appreciate the time that I did have off. So we definitely took advantage of like 4-day weekends, 3-day weekends, if there was like Memorial Day weekend and stuff like that. And they'd be like, hey, take this 4 days off. Don't worry about anything else. And if you had to work, then they would make it up at the end of the month or whenever they could, right? So for me, taking vacation was never one of those things because we have so much time off. And whether if I take all 60 days or not and I don't show up to work, I'm still going to get paid regardless, which is great.
Sure. Yeah, that's amazing. Super flexible, lots of time off. What other benefits are there?
I don't know if we discuss about like medical, you'll be covered, your family will be covered.
For healthcare?
For healthcare, for dental.
Okay.
When it comes to housing, we get BAH, active duty. As long as you're in active duty or active duty training, which it was what you were on your initial training, like you will get taken care of, you and your family members.
A lot of that money is tax free too, right?
Yes. So basic allowance for housing is tax free because it's only for your rent. Now, keep in mind, it's based on your local rent and things like that, right? So if you're paying, like for example, here rents are expensive. If you're paying $3,500 in rent, the Army will give you $3,500. But if you find an apartment or something smaller and you pay $2,500, they still give you $3,500. Whatever you do with that is up to you.
So you get an additional $1,000 that you can pocket.
Yes. Now, if you pay $4,000, they will only give you $3,500. So it depends
Then
on
you
what
got
you
to
do.
pay an additional $500.
Exactly.
So you get to kind of pick and choose, and you can kind of figure out what works best for your situation. If you want to pocket more money, or if you want to pay more out of pocket, or break even, whatever. That's interesting.
Also, once it's a 180 days for you to qualify for the VA loan.
Yes.
So
Active.
once you are in for 6 months or more, you qualify for something that's called a VA loan. A VA loan is not a loan that they give you. It's a guaranteed that if something happens to you, the VA will pay your loan when it comes to housing. Like you can buy a house with the VA loan. The VA loan is just pretty much a certification telling the bank, hey, if something happens to this individual, we'll take care of it. Happens in the sense like if you have a death or whatever, this and that, like your family will be covered, right? And that guarantees you getting the house and not having to pay a initial deposit.
Sure.
Like a lot of places around here, you have to pay 3, 5, 7, 20% down payment. I bought a house recently, as in like last year. I didn't pay anything.
0% down.
0% down.
It's amazing.
So
no PMI either.
For a almost $500,000 house, I didn't pay anything.
That's great.
So if I needed to actually come up with the money, it would have been like $80,000.
Yeah.
To be able to get that house, I didn't pay anything.
That's amazing.
And I have the house.
That's amazing. Sergeant Arbildo, didn't you have a couple houses that you bought and
Yes.
sold over the time too with that VA loan?
Yes. So the VA loan you can use more than once, right? Based on
If you're active duty, right?
if you're active duty.
Okay.
So when I first got married and was stationed in Fort Stewart, Georgia, I built my first house. $156,000. The VA covered it completely. I didn't have to put any money down. Once it was time for me to leave, I rented out that house for a certain amount of time. When I PCS to my next duty station in Colorado, they gave me the option to buy again, which I did while I was renting out the other one. The Colorado house needed to be my primary home and residence, so you need to live there for a year before you can actually sell it or rent it. So I bought a house there. It was only covering up to a certain amount because I already had that previous loan for the one in Georgia. Once I came to Miami, it's a little bit more expensive than it is in Colorado or Georgia. So I sold my house in Colorado, and I decided to sell my house in Georgia as well. Whatever you had already paid towards that loan was paid off. So any profits or any money that you made off of it was yours. So I profited from it because I was smart with it. I was smarter with the maintenance. I was smart with the upkeeping and all that stuff. The military is going to give you that loan because they understand, it's like, hey, you need to live somewhere with your family, right? If you're single, it's a little bit different on active duty because the Army will give you barracks. They'll put you inside an installation. Now, if you have a family, you can also stay on the installation because we do have housing and stuff like that on the installation. However, you just won't see that BAH. That BAH will get automatically deducted out of your paycheck, but that's because they're giving you the house, they're giving you the electricity, they're giving you the water and all that stuff. You don't have to worry about anything. Everything's completely taken care of, no matter the pricing or the amount of the house. Like he was saying, if you decide to stay off post somewhere and you find, and your BAH is $3,500 and you find something that's $2,500, you still pocket another $1,000. It's just based on the zip code where you're at is what they're going to pay you.
Sure.
So, and you were saying that in active duty, it also applies for reserves. It's slightly different, but once you can qualify for the VA loan, you qualify for it.
For
regardless.
us, it's 6-year term.
Yes.
So like I signed a 6-year contract, for example. So at the end of that contract, I become eligible for the VA loan.
Yes.
Or you're saying that you can go on active orders for 180 days consecutively, and then you qualify.
So I don't know, because like we mentioned before, everything changes. When I first joined, after 6 months, you qualify for it. Now it's a little bit different. But regardless, as long as you qualify for, regardless if you're active duty, reserves, or you're out, that's something that you keep for life.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a very useful benefit right
Yes.
there. So you literally have your housing, which would be the VA loan as a benefit. You have healthcare, which would be a benefit. What was the other one we mentioned? Dental.
You have leave, vacation days.
Leave.
And then the other one, the most important one for me, schooling.
Yeah.
They'll pay
Let's
for
dive
college.
in.
They'll pay for college.
Okay.
The only thing the Army asks of you in order for them to keep paying for college is maintain a C average or better, which is insane.
2.0.
Right.
2.0.
That's
2.0
crazy. If you're
GPA.
below that, come on.
Right. Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But it's great because they'll cover up to a certain amount in fiscal year, which the numbers right now I'm drawing a blank. So
4,000.
there you go. In a fiscal year resets every October. So you can use that to pay for classes. And on top of that, whatever other assistance you might need, because
FAFSA.
FAFSA is one of them that you can apply for.
Let's dive into the Army members. So since a lot of the income that you get in the Army is tax-free, when you go to apply for FAFSA, you can still qualify because you're reporting such a low income. Most of the time. Now, that's not going to be the case for everybody, we obviously know. But most of the time, you can still get FAFSA.
Correct. Yes. And that's also, a lot of people see it as like, hey, this is just extra money for me, which is, yeah, it is most of the time. But some people, they use their maximum allotted for schooling, that they use the rest for additional courses. So you can push your education even further and get done with your degree even faster.
Sure.
So it's another great benefit to have, because now you're thinking of the future. Because yeah, you might plan on having of doing 20 years in the military, but sometimes that's not the case. You get injured or something happens, so it's time for you to get out. At least now with schooling and stuff like that, you have something to show for and something to hold up against, like, everybody else competition wise outside of the military. You go apply for jobs. Yeah, you have that military training, but you don't have that degree. If you take advantage of that while you're in the military, now you have that to show for as well. So
100%.
Another great thing to have.
And I think so many people, like I said, when I go to my unit, there's all sorts of people that are doctors, and you would be like, why are you a doctor? Well, because the military pays for it. The Army pays for it. Like, I'm just taking, it took me 8 years. I took 2 classes a semester and called it good. But like, there's so many people that are taking advantage of that. And I think it's such a cool thing. Like I myself, I'm going to be going back to, I never got a degree. I got into real estate right away. Felt like I didn't need it, but now that the military is going to pay for it, here we are. I'm going to go take a couple classes here and there and finish.
Why not?
Why not? It's kind of cool being around that community where everybody's doing that, because then you feel like you want to. Is it harmful to you? By no means. It's only beneficial to get that education. So like, how cool of an opportunity.
Like I mentioned before, I got my bachelor's in information technology. The Army paid for the whole thing.
100%.
So I went for it and I got it. It's very nice in my desk right now, which is I'm not necessarily using it, but I have it.
Sure.
Which, what we were saying, once you have 20 years in and you get out, you can still work.
You have your degree
pension.
already done. It was paid
Exactly.
for it. You banged it out while you were getting paid. Like, what?
Plus,
It's
you
crazy.
have a lot of experience doing certain things. Like I have experience doing communications, and I also have experience doing what I'm doing right now, which
100%.
it can be considered sales representative, or like depending on how you want to phrase it.
Sure.
Because we do a lot of things as recruiters.
Sure.
So
Yeah, it's wild, man. Those benefits are great. What is the GI Bill and those types of things? I know that's a little bit different, but
yes, so that's another grant. It depends. There are 3 different chapters for it. One is the selected reserves, which is for us. They give you a certain amount of money monthly so that you can pay if the $4,000 don't cover. So if you want to take 12 credits per semester, the $4,000 may not cover the whole thing for the whole year. So you can apply for the GI Bill, and then they will send you a certain amount of money so that you can cover the rest.
sure.
The other way is that if you have 3 years of active duty or more, you qualify for something that's called a post 9/11. The post 9/11 will cover 100% of your tuition plus give you a BAH. So they will pay you while you're in school,
Sure.
as long as you keep a 2.0
Sure.
GPA.
Sure.
So your school pay for, they pay you to go to school, And the GI Bill, the main difference between the GI Bill and the tuition assistant is tuition assistant you can only use while you're in service, active or reserves.
Okay.
GI Bill, you
Anytime.
can use at any given time. So most people that I recommend is to use tuition assistant first, and then once, if they decide to get out, use the GI Bill.
Sure.
The GI Bill can also be transferred to your dependents.
I was going to say your kids. A lot of people do that.
Spouse, or kids.
Okay.
So,
Which is great because I took advantage of that for sure. My wife had already completed her bachelor's, and then we started looking at her master's program, and we saw that it was going to be quite a bit. So I decided to sign. That's another reason why I re-enlisted for another 6 years, because I said, you know what, I'm going to transfer my GI Bill to my wife so she can complete her master's degree. So now we have a whole life plan after, right? That's why I'm getting my business administration degree. We're going to use the VA loan in combination with my degree and her degree to open up a business, because the VA will also give you a business loan. So we're going to open our own ABA therapy center where she's, with her master's degree, she can practice and do all that stuff. And I'm going to be administering the business aspect of it, while the VA will cover for the business loan.
There you go. A man with a plan. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Paid for by the Army.
Exactly. Completely paid for by the Army. So why not?
How awesome. Oh, that's super cool. Okay. So just for those that are watching right now, you could literally do your 20 years if you get in at 18, be done by 38, open a business with an education, all of those things paid for, like literally by like 38, 40 years old. That's so crazy.
Yes.
I had no idea going in that all that stuff was available.
keep in mind that you will be covered throughout that entire time. It's not like you're going to be doing it for free.
Sure.
You're going to have a salary, you're going to have a roof over your head, or you're going to have money so that you can get a roof over your head.
Sure.
Like while you're preparing to do all of that, and then, move from there.
Isn't there something called the Green to Gold too?
Yes.
What is that?
That's you.
So that's another program that you have while you're in service. We come in as enlisted. Enlisted meaning that for you to be able to join as an enlisted, all you need is a high school diploma. That's it. You don't need any more education or training. If you're planning on doing your bachelor's and you are considering becoming an officer, what they do is that they pay for your full tuition while you're in college. That will be your focus, and once you're done, you get commissioned into becoming an officer.
Okay. So you come out, they just pay for everything right out the gate. Okay, and then you become an
It
officer.
will take your GI Bill though.
Oh, it'll take
They
your
will
GI.
use your GI Bill, but they will pay for the full tuition, regardless if you can apply for one or the other. It don't matter. They will pay for your full tuition, and then once you're done, you will switch from enlisted to officer.
Officer. Okay. So many different options,
Yes.
different avenues to go through. That's super cool. One thing that I think we should touch on as well is, like, let's say somebody gets injured during training. Like a lot of people, like females, for example, they have hip issues. Like they go in, I don't know what it was, rucking, maybe hurts their hips or something, and now they got this injury, and they think that they're stuck with it for the rest of life. Maybe they are, but the military could potentially pay for that if you make sure to get that documented, right?
So one of the hurdles that we have to go through is the medical aspect of enlisting. The Army wants you to be physically fit, not to be a PT style like I mentioned before, physically fit, that you're able to go in with no medical issues. Because once you're in and something happens while you're in training or like just serving in general, the Army will cover it either through the Army per se or through VA, which is Veterans Affairs. So if something happens to you, an injury or something, and you had the right documentation, so you have to go obviously get checked, not just say, oh no, I broke my foot. Yeah, where's the evidence? So you need the evidence. But if you have it, the military will cover you for that injury for the rest of your life.
That's amazing.
Regardless if you need surgeries, whatever treatment you need for that specific injury, they will cover you for the rest of your life.
That's great. So, like, for example, I was rucking, hurt my back. I got a LOD, which is a line of duty, while I was in training. So that I went in, the doctor said, okay, yes, this did happen. It was signed by the commander saying, like, yes, I agree, this did happen. So now, because that I have that LOD, which serves as proof, anything that happens with my back, I can go to
A VA hospital.
a VA hospital.
And you will
And
get
they're-
treatment for free for that injury
Okay, for the rest of life.
for the rest of your life.
That's crazy. So just so y'all know, if you do sign up, something happens, make sure you get it documented. I remember a couple people got injured and they never went in to see the doctor during training or whatever. I was like, no, like go in and
you
see,
need to.
because like otherwise you're gonna come out and you're gonna have this, I don't know, rotator cuff issue, but like this can be covered. This can be taken care of.
Yes, so the Army will cover you, but if the Army doesn't know that it happened,
How can they cover you?
how can they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. Good tidbits, maybe clips of knowledge where you're like, hey, I got to tell this because I get this question
thing.
all the fucking time.
One thing, do not leave the Army as your last option. It is not easy to get in. So we have this issue all the time. Like whenever we go to high schools and things like that, the students are like, oh, no, yeah, I'm thinking about joining the military, but as my last option. What happens if you leave it for last option and you have a medical condition, or, something happened, you were at the wrong place at the wrong time and you got arrested and charged for this or that, and then you don't qualify for it? What you gonna do? We can't do miracles. Like we said, it's your decision if you qualify for it. So if you don't qualify, there's nothing that we can do. So don't leave it for last minute. Don't leave it for, oh no, if anything else doesn't work. Like we were saying, the Army can set you up to be a business person, to have a degree, to have all of that. Give it a try first. Like we're saying, if you don't like it, thank you for your service. Do great things somewhere else. But at least you have something to back you up. 100%. You leave it for last minute, it doesn't work, what you gonna do after that?
Sure.
And definitely get informed. Talk to any recruiter, talk to us. We're there to provide that information. Don't just go off assumptions and misconceptions, because that's what we're there for, to clear anything up like that and clarify things that are not completely there, or just rumors and stuff that you see online. Going back to the beginning when we were talking about like, yeah, all you see in the Army is like, people going to war, shooting, stuff like that. It'd be a pretty terrible movie about a cook in the military.
Yeah.
So, that's why they do what they do. But we have so many options, so many different paths you can take. We specialize in helping you find what you need specifically and tailoring and adapting it to what's best for you. Like we said, we don't really make decisions for you. We make recommendations. We want you to make your own decisions, because at the end of the day, if you make that decision yourself, you put it in your own head. You're like, you know what, this is for me, rather than me telling you, hey, you're going to do this, and then 2 days later you're like, man, I don't want to do this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So make an informed decision.
What are the number one things that you see that make people not eligible to join the Army?
One is just not knowing English.
But there's a
We
solution
have a program
for that.
As long as you know enough, we can help you.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is not being able to pass a test. As long as you do enough, we can help you.
We have a solution.
Right? The third one is either if you have any felonies or anything like that, like that's going to be a hard one. But like I mentioned before, we have exceptions to policy. So just give it a try. The worst that they can say is no. They say no, well, at least you have an answer. But what if they can waive it? What if they can be like, you know what? Don't do it again. Come on. Again, the worst thing that they can say is no. You tried it, you got a yes.
Yeah.
If you get in your head, oh, but they're going to say no. Well, you don't know.
Sure.
And then the biggest one I want to say is medical.
I was going to say we should touch on medical.
If you have a medical condition, we can work around it. But again, we are not the ones making that decision. We just submit the paperwork, letting them know, hey, so this person had this or had that. They're clear from it. They have no issues. Give it a try. And then the doctors will be the ones saying, you know what? Yeah, it did happen, but the person seems to be in good condition now. Let's move forward.
Can you give us some specifics as to what medical conditions you don't accept, or what commonly come up to get people not pushed through?
One of the biggest ones, if you have like diabetes,
Sure.
that's 100% disqualification.
Sure.
If you're currently taking any medication, as in like you're being prescribed medication, you're not eligible until 2 years after you're done with your prescription.
For real?
Yes.
I had no idea that was the case.
Physical therapy as
Everyone's
well.
on
or if you're getting treated by someone, the reason why is they're not doing it because the Army doesn't want to like take responsibility or cover it, is because while you're away at basic training and job training and AIT, you're not going to have access to those medications or that physical therapy. So they don't want to hinder your physical fitness level or your overall health by putting you in a situation where you're not going to have access to that.
But what about when you go to the doctor? Like, let's say some people go to the doctor and they get prescribed something, and then they go to the what's it called, TMC or whatever, to pick it
Right.
up.
But that's because they have clearance from their primary doctor here first. They're like, okay, yeah, you're good to stop this for X amount of time, but we recommend you pick it back up whenever you're there, or we recommend you picking it up after because of the XYZ reasons. So every case is
Different.
special and is different, right? We can't give you exact answers like, yeah, this is for sure thing, because like I said, everybody's case is different.
Sure.
So another thing could be that someone had an injury or an illness prior to coming in, but it was treated to the point that they did not need further treatment at that point. And that person could have lived their entire life without needing treatment, but then they go to basic training where you have your mentally and physically
Challenge.
push
Yeah.
and challenge that can change.
Sure.
Therefore, then you need a treatment again.
Sure.
Or like you need treatment from there on.
Sure.
Once you're in, the Army will cover you.
Sure. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So, but
do.
to get there, sometimes it's hard. And that's why I was saying,
Sure.
don't leave it for last minute because you don't know.
Sure. So basically, okay, this brings up a very good point. My roommate, and one of my roommates, I'm not going to go into who, but it took him like 7 months or something, or 8 months to get in. For me, we did it in like 2 weeks. It was
Yes.
crazy, bro. Like, what? I don't recommend people going that fast because, like, I'm very thankful that everything worked out the way that it did for me. Like, and I chose the MOS I chose and all of these things. But it could have easily gone the opposite way, and I could be sitting here regretting my 6-year contract, right? So I don't suggest, like, going and jumping, like, that quick. I would suggest more do your research. It could take 9, 10, 11, a year to even get the clearance for you to be able to go because maybe you have to stop meds, maybe you have to do some PT or whatever the case may be, right? So I would suggest at least opening your mind, understanding what the process looks like, just getting educated, like you said, because it might take a year. So sooner rather than later, at least get educated. Worst case, like if you don't join, you don't join. Go get educated, go figure it out, and open that door a little bit so you can start to see the light on the other side. That's what I would say.
Always make an informed decision, and ask all the questions. Not every recruiter likes to answer a lot of questions. I encourage them because I know that at the end of the day, the applicant, whoever I'm working with, is informed and they're going to make an informed decision rather than just going in blind. And then once they're done with training, they're like, I hate my life. Why did I do this? My
Sure.
recruiter lied to me,
Sure.
kind of thing.
Sure.
So, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
like in our case, like in my case, I like to keep in contact with the recruits after they come back. So if I do something wrong, I can be held accountable for it. So that's why we try to be as transparent as possible. And I tell all my applicants, I am super honest. I will tell you how it is, whether if you like it or not, but it is how it is. That way you will do an informed decision. You will make an informed decision. So, and that's one of the things I keep tabs with with my recruits, also to know, hey, how did it go for you? Because for me, it was one thing. For you, it might have been different. For him, what it might have been different. You see what I'm saying? So, just give it a try.
Give it a try.
That's what I call it.
Like I said, all my kids are going through at 18. I don't even really think they have a choice. Yes,
So-
they do have a choice, but like, bro, I'm sending them at 17. We're doing the split
Yeah.
thing, whatever, do half then, half that.
So
and
talking
that's
about
it.
that, I have a 19-year-old that joined last week.
There you go.
My
Congratulations.
kid,
There you go.
my oldest. And it wasn't me. I didn't tell him anything because I didn't want to influence, but he told me, he was like, I've seen what the Army has done for you or what you have done with the Army, and I want some of that.
100%.
So I was like, you know what? Let's go.
Okay, so this brings into another. That's amazing that he joined. This is taking me. I thought I was going to be old at 27 or 26 going in, and I was like, oh damn, I'm doing this too late. Like I have to do it now. No, there were people there 35, 40 with 4 kids on family day. Their wife and 4 kids came to visit. Like I said, all different sorts of people there, different stages of life, different this, different that. To have this door open and just to understand it and always be able to go back or whatever the case may be, or if you want to slide to reserves and it's more of a passive thing for you, like in my case, like so cool just to have this door open. So if you're watching this and you're like 30, 35, like go for it because you're not going to be the oldest person.
I put somebody in that's 42
Crazy.
for active duty. Another one that was 41, the one reserves. It's never too old. We do have a cutoff age after a certain amount of time before your 43rd birthday. But if you are before your 43rd birthday, you still can join. It's never too late to make that change.
Can't you get a waiver at 43 too?
No, so the waiver is from 35 to before 43.
Okay, but after 43, you're done.
That's it.
Unless
From
you,
us, unless you have a specialty like a
doctor
or something like that, or you have a bachelor's towards that career, then that's a different recruiter.
Okay. So I remember when I came in to do my recruiting with you or whatever, there was a gentleman who was a doctor.
Yes.
Scored a perfect score on the ASVAB, or 99.
he scored a 99
what?
and was freaking out about taking the actual test. the
That
actual
was
ASVAB.
crazy. So he was a doctor going in. Why was he going in? Who knows? But one thing that people can do is you can actually become a citizen through the Army.
Yes.
So it's not becoming a citizen through us, more as in like we expedite the process. Because you're in the armed forces, you will be put in priority. Therefore, as soon as you join, you will receive your citizenship within a year. I say within a year because it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, but it will be within a year, regardless if you just got your residence card. If you just got your permanent residency, you join. Within a year of that, you joining, you will get your citizenship.
That's amazing. I remember people taking tests during basic training. They were doing the tests. They were getting all sorts of stuff. They would call them over the intercom, say, hey, if you have citizenship, like come downstairs right now. So I remember that being like a big thing, and a lot of people took advantage of it. So many cool things to talk about, but
Yes.
do you want to wrap it up here?
Sure.
So first of all, thank you for the opportunity. We're glad to see you back.
I'm alive.
And actually enjoying it. Because sometimes we get those cases that are like, oh, I didn't like it, whatever, this and that. But like, seeing this, because that's how I felt when I came back. When I came back, I was like super pumped. I'm still am. Not as much. I mean, I can't do certain things anymore. I'm old. Regardless. Yeah, I'm glad that you're back. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. I'm glad that that it has you, that it's working for you.
Thank you.
Because that's what we wanted.
Thank you.
We're here to help. Me as a person, I am a recruiter that like to help my applicants.
Sure.
So and seeing you enjoying and like having fun with it, it is my dream come true. Seeing you enjoying what we do.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been fabulous.
Definitely. And thank you again for having us. This is a great opportunity, not only, to be able to connect again from, recruit to recruitee to now soldier, but to get the word out there, to let people know, Also, I encourage you, and I hope you do, spread the word. Let them know about your experiences. Let them know how, the Army changed you and it helped you for the better, Share all the experiences, not just the good ones, because like I said, we don't want them to join and then have a misconception of rainbows and sunshine, and then there's another stormy cloud at the end.
Sure.
Let them know everything. Let them make their own decisions. But this is great because, like he said, we're glad to see that you're back. You made it through. It's always great when you help somebody join the military and they take that step and they come back and they made it through. They made it all the way and they're excited about it and they're happy with their decision. That's always great to see. So
100%. Well, thank you guys for getting me in. It's much appreciated, and thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we provided some value, but I think we did.
Hopefully.
Thank